Hey everybody, Adam Plisick here over at Skilly. Couple of really critical updates. Many of you have been asking these enhancements for the last couple of months. Wanted to know that the day is finally here for some of these goofy sounding terms like answer engine optimization or generative engine optimization, as well as auto tagging and easy ways to kind of filter and export a variety of conversations. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to share my screen. All right, now you may be looking here and wondering, well, how did I get here? Well, the easy question is now on everyone's account to do answer engine optimization. This is the idea of understanding your relationship with some of these modern day search engines, large language models like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and similar. What we've done is inside the AI agent dropdown, you'll see an AEO. And again, for those of us that are just learning, that's answer engine optimization, a section that we have done. Now, when you start, you're going to have to go ahead and click the run diagnostic and generate content recommendations. This can actually take up to 10 minutes, and I'll show you exactly why here in just a second. But before we get into kind of the meat of this, I want to kind of point out that the learn button on your far right-hand side is going to help explain what is very fairly so some new or at least some foreign concepts to what you may have even known even as a well-worn marketer here in the overall space. So it's going to talk a little bit about some of these definitions, right? A little bit about why it matters. You're going to hear maybe some new words or new letters here, the llms.txt file that is almost in some ways a cousin of the robot file that we sometimes use to kind of give search engines of yesteryear the ability to understand kind of where to go and where not to go. Now, one note about the llms.txt file is that there's a little bit of a discussion about sort of how useful this is going to be. So sort of born out of the fires of telling and communicating to large language models exactly what the page is or the brand or the organization was all about. I think there's a little bit of discussion in the industry yet about how popular or even adopted these are, because many of the kind of forefront, kind of frontier models actually can look at your website now and sort of maybe distinguish that even better than you'd be able to say it. But we kind of put it out here just because I think the future is still evolving for all of us. It's going to talk a little bit about what I'm going to show you here in just a second around top questions, how it all works, and everything along the way. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to use our friends here at the Forbes Funds as just an example here, and we're going to start with our diagnostic. Now, our diagnostic is going to pick typically your homepage or your kind of main center of knowledge and graph, which is your original way you set up the Skilly or someone set up a Skilly for you. You're going to then understand a little bit about how easy it is for our crawlers, which is a proxy for how large language models are ultimately going to crawl your site is. You're going to want to understand a little bit in terms of how indexed and structured the data could be, different ways that the content could be formatted and kind of broken down, as well as inherently how open and accessible your knowledge base is. And then, of course, how easy it is to understand and what is rendering along that same journey. Now, what you're going to also see is some pretty traditional kind of blends of both kind of legacy search engine optimization signals as well as modern day AEO or GEO signals. So as we see in the crawler axis, a crawler is a bot that goes out and sort of understands and reads the website or the content on our behalf. It's going to look for things like I mentioned earlier, like that robot.txt file, which is typically a guide. The idea around some sort of a sitemap, right? So some sort of a navigational portal where ultimately the crawlers can come take a look. If you publish this new, albeit experimental format here around llms.txt files, but then you're also going to see a variety of different things around kind of the meta information you have, including what was available on the page, what kind of structured data you have, what kind of content structure you have. And as you can see and scroll down, it really kind of mirrors the sort of scoring we had on top as kind of the executive summary. These are all indicators to kind of give to your website team, your agency, the person who sits closest to your website in the office to take some consideration, because while a lot of the best practices that are still well worn for traditional search discovery are great foundations, there's some new tips and tricks we have in order to become even more apparent to these kind of frontier models, these large language models like ChatGPT and Claude. Okay, the content recommendations is where it starts to get really interesting, and this is our special sauce here at Skilly. So the idea is these are the top 25 questions overall that we believe would help you become discoverable by a large language model. Now, of course, this can't be a guarantee. We're not always sure exactly the gray box of how these work, but it gives you an opportunity to understand which questions might be the spark or the opportunity to kind of reformat and have more present on your website. And then, of course, we've broken it down by individual product or service or capability or category. So everyone will have an all tab, but each of you will have individual tabs for the categories you see here. Now, you can also add a question, and I'm going to show why this is critical as I come back to kind of all, and I scroll down, because sometimes you know something about a question and answer that may or may not be really relevant yet to sort of the lagging information you have, but might be something you want to be known for going forward. You can understand where the source of it came from. Was it one of your particular web pages? What ultimately product or service does it align with? If you don't see a globe, which in this case is only kind of a rare moment down here, it might have come from either a Skilly chat or a different type of Q&A knowledge object. And what's really critical about what I'm saying is that these Skilly conversations are now becoming the leading indicator of what types of discoverability ChatGPT or Claude want to see on your website. But as we all know, maintaining a website can be both slow and expensive depending on the seasonality and the availability of resources. So this is going to help us understand our base site. Content recommendations are going to help us understand the questions that are going to be the most magnetic towards large language models outside of your website to bring traffic in. Sources are then going to get really, really interesting and sort of figure out which one, when people are talking to, let's say, ChatGPT, are getting referred to sources about you or your content from your site. In this case, we see about 80% or 78% here, where about 16 or so sources are external. We don't see the same coverage necessarily in Claude, and this is through the lens of citations. What you're going to see below are actually the most cited domains. So where are you getting referred to? Where are the things coming up? And again, this will evolve over time. And then you can actually see, relative to these various topics, which one your site is becoming the premier source for, as well as external sites. And this is pretty exciting because for the first time, now you're able to really take a look at where everything's coming from, how you might appear, and then again, which ones are coming from different types of external sites versus your site. This is not going to be very clear, an optimization technique. So we are not placing ads for you in Reddit or putting organic content on Wikipedia, some of the kind of known places where large language models gather from, but it is giving you a really clear view of where you are or are not appearing. This kind of capability can cost you up to $10,000 a month. We're including it for free inside of Skilly, and I'm sure this is our V1, and hopefully it'll get a lot better at this point. All right, now in terms of installation. So first and foremost, that llms.txt file you can see here is generated every month as this updated. You can copy this text and you can of course paste it in the exact same way you see organized below. Now, our silly example here just says yoursite.com. That's of course your domain /llms.txt. Very similar for those that understand about the robot file. Now, here's where it gets wild. Those questions you saw in terms of content recommendations are dynamically generated based on your Skilly conversations, as well as your pages, as well as the intersection of how you're appearing on ChatGPT and Claude. Again, unfortunately, we can't guarantee because we don't know exactly how ultimately ChatGPT or Claude discover you. But what we do know is that we've now created a widget, a really, really simple piece of code that you can copy here and actually frame in any blank page on your site. Now, we've recommended you kind of put your website in here /top-questions because we've noticed that is the most obvious place that a lot of the large language models will dig. But this allows you to embed this almost like an iframe on a various page. The content will actually be refreshed over time, largely informed by the popularity, the clicks, and the conversions of your Skilly, meaning that this page is actually being led with what's coming next, not necessarily just dependent upon the pages you have. Kind of a fatal flaw of what else we've seen out there. So these are some ideas. I would recommend right away you get a conversation with whoever you're working with over here at Skilly. This is very much on the forefront. And while a website is more important as its quality content than it's ever been, we want to make sure you take advantage of the fact that we've included this for free at every level of your subscription. Now, the only other thing I wanted to show you on our update today is actually about tags and alerts. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you over to a new instance here. And the way we get to our tag manager is by going to your profile And as you can see here, we're going to drop down to the bottom right-hand side where we can manage tags. Tags are elements that you can add to your conversations or the questions in your conversations to make sure that you can organize them in whatever way is best for you. Now, we're just using a made-up example from BCG here, an employer I used to have here called the Boston Consulting Group. So no, this is just example data, not the real deal, but very representative of what you'll see inside your instance. When you come to tagging, for those that have been picking up on our updates, you're going to notice you can create categories as well as individual tags. Sometimes the tags are going to be inside of a particular theme, and sometimes they're just going to be uncategorized. It's really easy to bring them in and out. You can simply take things like, in this case, industries could be real estate, and you can bring it back to untagged, and you can bring it back in at the same ease. This just allows for slightly easier reporting. You're going to also notice that in some cases, right, AI is actually helping you generate or auto tag. And the way we manage that is by hovering over, and you'll slightly see these three dots, which is our menu. You can, of course, remove the tag, but we're going to focus our energy on managing this tag. And now you can choose three things. The first and foremost is, are you going to automatically tag conversations of this category starting today with AI? So do you want our system to say, hey, all conversations that look like this concept, this theme, tag with something like real estate or 401k or a product or service that you want to make sure you understand what people are talking about? What's critical about this, though, is can everyone see my slider here? And the closer I get to the right-hand side is how confident the AI has to be that it is exactly part of this conversation, keeping in mind that the same conversation can have multiple tags. Traditionally, we don't recommend below about a 70% confidence unless you're really sure you want to cast a very, very broad net of how the AI is going to tag when you're not able to manually do so. The second thing is about notifications. You're going to notice, and I'm going to caution everybody, this can be a little overwhelming if you're not kind of intentional, but at the individual tag level, you can choose how frequently it happens, as it happens, daily roll up or weekly roll up. And then you can also choose who gets it. Now, you can have all members of an entire team. And of course, I'm the only member of this team. So you could select one or many, right, along this way. This is really critical because, again, this is happening at the tag level. Specifically here, this is not for all tags. Now, for some of our folks that are in places like higher ed or human services, local government or nonprofit, you're also going to see above and beyond the categories, of course, that we implicated in our for-profit clients like medical devices, et cetera, that there are some system-wide tags. And unfortunate as it is, there is a rare occasions, if you are in maybe, let's say, the human services or HR space, where someone will threaten something as egregious as self-harm. When that happens, everyone in the account automatically gets a tag that is system generated. So you don't need to necessarily set up tags exactly like that. So this allows us to sort of begin to understand in our activity, what type of alerts are actually coming through. Now, you're going to notice here we have things like assigned and unassigned. And I don't want to get deeply into this, but just know if you're willing to play around with it, we're going to be able to kind of start to work this in a way where if somebody comes in with a particular tag or alert, you're going to be able to assign it and either take it yourself or assign it to somebody else to kind of get involved in the conversation. And again, we'll have more to do an update on that soon. So this was a big update. You have questions about AEO, GEO, what we've implemented, as well as alerts and automated kind of weekly tagging. Please reach out to the person you're closest with at Skilly. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll talk to you soon.